Thanks, Debbie. And I know we have a few people. We have Lorraine, Linda, Debbie, and Kristen who are in the background. Is that right, Debbie?
Correct.
Awesome. So they're observing, and I appreciate the rest of you that are participating. Thank you. Again, it's a pleasure to be here and work with all of you. This is something that I have a lot of fun with, and I created this facilitation training for the entire district of my district, so that I didn't have to do all the facilitating and do all the work. And so it was very selfish. I created it when we were doing facilitation in person, and then I had to quickly convert it to Zoom because that's the life we live right now. And so there's a few things that I'd like to just go over. I want to go over the agenda. We will end on time. Whether we get through the agenda or not, we end at 5 o'clock. So one of the jobs of a facilitator is to watch the clock and make sure you make it end seamlessly on time, as if you intended not to cover those last 4 slides anyway, or whatever happens. So that's part of facilitation, right? And if you need a break, please do what you did last time. We'll take a 2-minute break. There is not one scheduled, but I am happy to make one happen if we need it. So let me know. And I just want to go over the 3 Zoom controls that you have to know today. And the 3 Zoom controls, you probably already know. One is mute and unmute, right? That's the most important one. And the joy of being a co-host is I can mute you if I have to. Just kidding. The other one is the video. And if you're participating, I'd like you to leave your video on. And this is not the time to multitask because we can actually tell. So I appreciate everyone participating just like you did last week. So thank you. Good afternoon, Lynn. Welcome. And what's the 3rd button? Does everybody remember the 3rd button that we need to know? Yeah, not this one. Here's the other one. You are right. Show me that you all know where the raise the hand button is. I'm seeing all kinds of bells and whistles going off. That's fun. Yeah, everybody's starting to get it. Arthur, did you find that raise the hand button? It's if you open the participant screen, so you click on participants on the bottom of your screen, and it opens a little white window, either on the side or in the middle of your screen. And that little white window at the very bottom has a raise hand and lower hand. The only people that don't have it are the host and the co-host, which is Debbie and I. So as soon as I can see everybody's got their raise their hand, then Arthur, he has it, Maggie, Peter, Madeline, Kristen, awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, now you can lower it and you just do the same thing. Hit that button again and it lowers. And if you don't lower it, I have the power, so I do. So that's awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen now. And for those of you that are observing, if you put a Z in front of your name, a Z in Canada, a Z in the US, you know, we have a lot of idiosyncrasies that are different. I don't know why that. We are British. And then if you want to shut off your video, you may, and you're just observing so that I know. Thank you so much. And sharing my screen one more time. And get that out of the way. Always helps. There we go. So I'd like to start out with a review. So this screen is blank. I don't have anything on it other than this word. And I'd just like to hear from you. And by putting up your hands, and I'll call on you as we've been doing this whole time. Just let me know what you remember from last week. And it doesn't matter if it's a little thing or a big thing, it doesn't have to start at the beginning. This is just a quick review so that we remember what facilitation is. Who wants to go first? Little blue hand. Oh, Maggie.
Now, the first thing we talked about is what to do before you get there. Arrive early, check your lighting, be professional, make sure you don't have a weird background.
Very good, yes. You must have taken notes.
I did.
Good job. Lauren, I saw you clapping. Now, was that you trying to raise your hand?
Apparently, yes. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's okay. Have you found your little blue hand so that we know where it is this time?
Okay. I was looking for the raised hand here in the reactions.
Right, reactions are different.
Which
The
is different,
reactions
okay.
are clapping and, you know, thumbs up and all kinds of fun emotions. But the raised hand actually puts a little blue hand beside your name in the participants window.
And no, I'm sorry, I have not found that. Where am I looking for that?
So if you hover your mouse on the bottom, there's a little menu, and in the middle of it says participants.
Got it. Yeah.
If you click on that, it opens the window, and at the bottom.
I know that. Thank you.
You are welcome. No problem. Maddie has her hand up. What else under review?
You just said anything that we remember from last week.
Absolutely.
So, one of the things we talked about was the difference between speaking and teaching and facilitating. So facilitating is more about finding out whether people actually learn what you're trying to tell them.
Right. So getting the answer from them.
Yes, and getting the answer from them.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Maddie. Anyone else remember anything from last week? Sheila.
Yeah, I think it's really important that the facilitator have a good general knowledge, but their point is to be able to bring out or facilitate the involvement of people so that they share what they know about whatever's being talked about and build on everybody's knowledge base.
So would you call that guiding the participants?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. And some basics as well. Thank you, Sheila. Peter.
I apologize. I was multitasking because I was asked a question. This may have been mentioned. I liked that we talked about knowing the hot buttons depending on what you're facilitating. I mean, if you're facilitating a conversation over a tense issue, it's good to know the hot buttons so you don't lead them into them. So I guess it goes kind of along with knowing the topic.
Right. Knowing the topic and knowing how to guide around, and not necessarily around topics, but help calm things when things might get hot. Is that what I'm hearing, Peter? Awesome. Kristen.
I think it's important that we as facilitators are the ones making it a safe space so that everybody feels welcome they want.
Absolutely. We talked about a safe space. What does a safe space mean, Kristen? I caught you. Just kidding.
You did. Red wine, 3:30, right? That's legit.
It is happy hour. It's awesome.
It's been a day, I'm just saying. I think a place where everybody feels like they can express themselves, a place where people know it's kind of judgment-free zone, and maybe some things that are said are going to stay there rather than go out on the wide.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And building a safe space is important, right? So that you can get participation. One of the things I noticed I was doing, I think I mentioned this, I was doing multi-year planning, and they were all talking about, wouldn't these projects be cool? And then somebody says, I like this project, but I don't like that project. And it's important for a facilitator to to recognize that and say, remember, all ideas are good ideas, right? Because we don't want them to start judging everything. Otherwise, your facilitation starts falling apart, right? Any other, any other reviews? Anything else that anybody remembers? I see Arthur putting his physical hand up. Arthur.
You're muted.
Sorry. I took notes last week on my slave computer, my slave screen. And number 3 covered a lot of these, so some of them are repeats. But what I wrote down was the skills of a great facilitator. Know your subject matter, keep all involved, which I don't think has been mentioned before. Paraphrase, have a sense of humor, flexibility, guide the conversation, manage the clock, guide the participants, and speak slowly and distinctly.
Very good. I like your notes.
Well, I was listening last week.
Yay.
I'll try and do that again.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Arthur. Lauren, you had a comment.
Well, I think Arthur kind of covered it, but we talked about humor and enjoying the process, kind of keeping it light.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And you guys are doing that, so I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. So I just wanted to go through quickly the topics that you guys have already said. Starting by setting the stage. We all tried that last week. Remember that? You know, letting people know about on Zoom, it's important to let them know. I always like saying there's only 3 buttons you have to remember, and then it makes Zoom kind of simpler. You know, there's a lot more to Zoom, but that's what you need to know. You need to know how to mute. You need to know how to turn on your video and how to raise that little hand. So, and establishing, you guys are good at establishing a safe environment, just, you know, making sure everybody knows that we don't judge and it's all safe. Learning the characteristics of a great facilitator, as well as those basics that we talked about. The basics of, you know, controlling the clock, controlling the, guiding the participants, knowing what the skills are, and you're guiding both the conversation and the participants. And finally, remember how to learn how to deal with every situation. How do you bring people out of rabbit holes? Does everybody remember how to bring somebody out of a rabbit hole? If you start recognizing that we're going off on a tangent, it's just, you know what, this is a really good conversation, but we need to get back to our agenda. Is that something we can either address after or put on a parking lot, and we'll make sure we get answers for you? Remember that? So those are some of the things that we can go through. So what are some of the programs in Rotary that we use these skills for? Just name them out loud. You don't have to put up your hand for this one. Just unmute yourself and name what you think this can be used for in Rotary.
Rotary Leadership Institute.
Rotary Leadership Institute, yeah, RLI.
District training.
Committee meetings.
District training, committee meetings. Arthur has his hand up. Unmute, Arthur.
Pets.
Oh, perfect. Pets. Yeah.
Yeah, we use it a lot at pets.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Just in a regular meeting, running a meeting as president or, yeah.
Absolutely. Running a regular meeting. Yeah.
District governor visits.
DG visits. Love those DGs. Yeah. All of those. And the G, I call them the G5. I don't know if you guys call them the G5, you know, right from PDG all the way up to PDN. So yeah, visioning and multi-year planning is something that we use in our own club, helping other clubs. You know, as a district, we often help more than one club, and whether they need help with the membership, need help with anything, even at a club level or a committee level, can help other clubs. So you guys are now the team for your district for facilitation. So, is everybody ready to get started? We get to put this into practice. So, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to set the scenario for you. Has anybody ever ran into that club where they just don't want to make changes because they've always done it that way? So what's going to happen is we've been asked to facilitate a discussion at a regular club meeting with a club who is that club that has always done it this way, and why should we change? So I'd like each of you to take a 1-minute turn on facilitating this meeting. And guess what the rest of you are? The rest of you are the participants in this. So you all have an active role. You can't sit out and try to do something else. I'm sorry, because we're going to ask somebody to volunteer to go first. And I always like a volunteer because I don't like to put somebody on the spot. And Peter has volunteered to go first, and the rest of you are participants. So I'm going to say it's Peter, then Maggie. Peter, go ahead.
So this is an idea at our club. So today I've come to you, I've been asked to come to you to help the club to discuss a change that has been proposed. It can be controversial, and some people have very strong feelings about it. So we thought it was best to come together as a club and have a facilitated meeting where we could hear the ideas surrounding this proposed change, the pros and cons, if you will, of the old way and the new way. The idea proposed is that on Rotary meeting day, we wear our underwear on the outside of our clothes for the meeting. And obviously, there have been some very strong feelings, especially amongst those people who don't wear. So what we're looking for is positive, progressive ideas that will move us ahead. So let's start with that.
Okay, Peter, I really have to object to that. That just makes utterly no sense. The way we've been doing it for 40 years has worked just fine.
I hear that. That's good input. Does anybody have another view, maybe?
I'd like to ask a question. You hear me?
I do. Go ahead, Arthur.
Okay, my question is, how are the women who are wearing skirts going to have this happen? It's pretty easy for men, but the women in our club
Okay,
are going to
my
have
timer is going off. And okay, so if Peter, you did set the stage, although for this, I've already set the stage. So what I'd like you to do is you did kind of set the stage in a funny way, which was great. So we'll talk about each participant after, so we'll have some comments generally, sorry. And when you are facilitating, just leave yourself unmuted, because you are guiding the conversation. So you need to be the one leading. So I'll just tell that to everybody else. So Maggie, I believe you were next, and who wants to go after Maggie? Arthur, I see your physical hand go up. Maggie,
Okay, guys, Rotary is changing every day so that we can attract new vital members. And I think it's time for us to take a look at some ways to change this club. You know, I think some of the old saws that have always worked are maybe not as inviting to our younger folks and some of the people we want to get involved. So I'm here to help you discuss what kinds of things we can do differently that will attract and hold on, more importantly, to new members. So let's open it up for a discussion. Anybody?
everybody can unmute and participate to this.
I think our club's doing great how it is. I always like how we've done it.
You know, Kristen, that's a really valid situation, and that's true. It's a very comfortable thing. But what's your membership looking like? Are you going up? Are you going down? Are there some things we could do differently to get new folks into our club?
My timer went off.
Boy, did it ever.
Sorry. I gotta learn how to shut it off. Okay, thank you. Now I have Arthur, and then I see Maddie's hand up. Is that right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So Arthur and then Maddie.
Okay, I want to thank you all for coming today. I enjoy these weekly meetings a lot. And as you know, for years and years, this is a non-drinking club, although we do meet in a restaurant, which does have at least a wine bar. And so I was suggesting that in order to change our agenda just a little bit, that on the fourth Wednesday of the month, that we allow everybody, if they'd like, to have a glass of wine at their table or to buy a bottle and share it with others at their table. And I'd like to very much know what any of you or all of you might think about that. So please feel free to speak up at this time.
Arthur, I have to suggest there that that's not really an appropriate thing to do on Wednesdays for breakfast, because many of us have to go to work after the meeting.
Maybe I misspoke that we meet at lunch. And so if I made that mistake, let me correct that we meet at lunch.
I need that open. I'm hot. Oh,
No, I think it's all right. I mean, it's 5 o'clock somewhere in the world anyway. So whether it's a sunrise club or a noon club, I think it's okay.
Yeah, it's almost 5.
I think there might be a problem with that because some people have to go back to work. I mean, folks who are retired, they can sit and enjoy their glass of wine and linger in the afternoon if they want to, but most employers don't really care for employees coming in reeking of booze.
Okay, my timer went out. It went off right at the right time. This could be a fun conversation, I tell you. Thank you, Arthur. Now it's Maddie and then Kirsten. Kristen, I saw your hand up.
So I'm going to be talking to you today about changing from having a prayer the beginning of every meeting just to a thought for the day, so that we can get people who maybe aren't as religious or different religions. So I want to know, what do people think of changing that? Is there anyone got any comments there?
You know, Maddie, for 50 years, we've always had a prayer. We're basically Christian community. I'm kind of cool with keeping it that way.
And do you know people in your community who maybe aren't Christians, but would be good Rotarians?
Well, yeah, actually a few.
And do you think that perhaps they might be put off if we had a prayer with Jesus every time?
It's an interesting thought.
And does anyone else, what does other people think? Is there anyone else that wants to comment on it?
I think this is a deep pit that many clubs have in fact gone through. And as it happens, I would claim to be an evangelical Christian, but my understanding is that that's not necessarily the best way to promote our faith.
Okay, that's time.
Okay.
Thank you. I have Kristen, and who wants to go after Kristen? I'd like to line somebody up. This is for everybody to participate if you can. Lauren and then Joe. Go ahead, Kristen.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me here today. I'm here to talk to you about the date that we are meeting for our club. Currently, we're meeting at 3 o'clock Fridays, and we're finding that some people are struggling with that going out of town, and we're considering moving to a midweek meeting. I was wondering if anybody had any thoughts or questions about this idea.
I'd just like to say that it's part of my week. It's how I do things, and I really would be inconvenient to come at a different time. It just doesn't work for me.
What if at the same time, but it's just a different day?
You know, I kind of like that idea, Kristen. I think maybe we do some shifting.
What would your preference be, Maggie, for if we were to make a shift?
And what day are we meeting again?
Right now we're Fridays at 3.
Oh Lord, no, not Friday. Maybe I would probably do Wednesday.
Good job, Kristen.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for playing along, guys. You're doing great. I have Lauren and then Joe. And who wants to go after Joe? Sheila. Lauren.
All right. Well, I think it's important that we have this discussion, but before we begin, I want to stress the fact that some of the traditions that we do in this club are marvelous, and we've done them for very many years, right from the inception of our club, and others we have moved along as time has gone. So let's realize that not everything that we've always done forever is the best thing, and sometimes there are new ideas. Sometimes those new ideas aren't the very best thing, but I think it's fair that we hear what they all are in order that we can understand each other's perspective. Here in Canada, as a monarchist nation, we have always toasted the Queen, and there's been a suggestion that we don't continue to toast the Queen any longer. And I'm wondering what your thoughts on that particular topic might be.
Is that even allowed?
I would be very sad to see us lose the Queen because, well, I'm British and I really like her. And I like the way we do it at our meetings.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. Now I have Joe, then Sheila, and who's going to be on deck after Sheila? Who hasn't gone? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do I have everybody?
Maddie, I'll be we lose the Queen too, just so you know.
Okay, I've got Joe. Go ahead, Joe.
All right, thank you. It's great to see everybody today. And we've got a discussion that's been going, and I've heard it for quite some time, about allowing just anybody into Rotary in our community just to build our numbers. And as club members, we need everybody's input. You may be for it, you may be against it, but I think it's important that everybody come together and we're able to discuss it. And so that's what we're here today to do, is talk about just letting just anybody within our community, within our club. So thoughts?
I have a thought.
Yes, Arthur, please.
I do think that letting a lot of people into Rotary is a very fine thing, but I think the people that ought to come into Rotary should have one important factor in mind, and that is that they're community minded, that they wish to give back to the community. If they're just there to have lunch or have a meal and then go home and do nothing, then that's just numbers alone are insufficient. You have to have numbers of people who are willing to do what Rotary does.
Okay. Thanks, Arthur. Thanks for that input. That's great. Anybody else?
To me, that some of our most hard-charging people in the clubs that I'm most familiar with started out totally as networking members and got the bug in the club. So I don't know that there's a problem with just bringing people in.
Great job. Thanks, Joe. Sheila's next, and then is it Dwayne that I have on my list? Is that good? Sheila.
Well, thanks for being here today. And I think we do have a couple of things that we need to talk about in that our club has always done things the same way. And Rotary is changing. There's all sorts of new models of clubs there. But the one thing that concerns me the most is that this club has maintained a policy that if somebody misses 5 meetings, they are out of the Rotary Club. And I'm just really wondering if that is relevant in today's world.
Excuse me, is that 5 meetings in a row or just 5 meetings a year or over what period of time?
5 meetings in a row.
Unless there's some logical reason like an illness or moving away for work or something, if they're not going to be involved, I think they should go.
I think that there are other ways to be involved than just coming to the meeting. So it might be Sheila's got a point, but
We're always just as happy to cash their checks as long as they pay.
Great. Dwayne, I have you next.
Hey there, hi there, ho there. We're as happy as can be. MICKEYMOUSE. Now that's the new theme song that has been proposed for our Rotary Club, and I want to get everybody's feelings on it. Can I start with one male, and then if I could get one female member to please give me their thoughts?
I love Mickey Mouse. I'd love to sing that every week. That's such an uplifting song.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it is as well. Could I get a lady to give me her thoughts, please?
Well, I think that there's a number of Rotary songs out there that go ROTARY that could replace that and have the same sort of enthusiasm building.
Well, you are very right, Sheila. Maybe there is a way that we could adapt it so that it could become our new theme song. Thank you very much.
I don't know, Dwayne. I think the patriotic songs are the ones we should stick to.
And
I'm tone deaf.
you have a point there as well, but we all have to consider other options in this world.
Oh, okay.
Good job. Thanks everyone for playing along. So I just want to get comments. How do you think this went? And what did you learn? Hands up. Tell me.
I think humor goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Humor goes a long way, yeah. Peter, you had a comment.
I don't think our AGs are afraid to talk in front of people, and I enjoyed that.
That's awesome. Dwayne and then Maddie.
I think it is important. As you can tell, I try and have a little bit of humor in most of the things that I do bring out, and sometimes it can be a little bit of a sarcastic sense. And that is one thing that all of us have to learn not to be. And it is important to be able to change things around in how things are presented and not just be the bland, very boring type of facilitator. I think that's important as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Maddie had a comment.
well, there was that moment when everybody posed a question where there was a silence.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, who's going to say something? And it occurred to me that that's probably quite a difficult moment when you're just starting, that you have to really manage that if nobody comes up with an answer straight away.
And I think sometimes that can be accommodated by, as when I started mine, I asked for a male and a female response. So you are actually looking out and asking for that response right away. So sometimes that can help. And whether or not you're actually pointing out to you don't necessarily want to point to a particular person, but sometimes you can look in the general direction of a sitting table or whatever like that, and they kind of get themselves going a little bit too.
Right. We have to be careful nowadays about how we call out people. So I just want to caution you. Saying I'd like one male and one female could be, just saying who would like to go first. And do you remember when I said last week, silence is golden?
Well, you also
Don't be
said,
afraid of silence.
also, if we're talking about silence, then that's a good time for the facilitator to point to one of the people who don't respond very often and say, do you happen to have a thought that you'd like to share with us? And they may say no, or that may encourage them to speak up.
Right.
Just say one old person and one young person. That's not controversial.
Be careful there.
Not at all. I've
One
got
person.
Maggie and then Lauren, and then we'll move on to the next one.
One blonde, one brunette. Sorry.
There you go.
Could go on.
I think it's really important as you prepare for these things to have in your mind what the negatives are going to be and be prepared to deal with them.
it's okay to have conflict. Conflict is
Yeah.
not bad, right? So don't be afraid of it.
Mhm.
It's just you don't want it to come to fisticuffs, right? So
That's more exciting.
sure.
That is the beauty of Zoom.
Yeah, the beauty of Zoom is that it's not going to come to that, right? Lauren, and then we'll wrap this up.
Well, mine is kind of on the same line as Maggie's, but I think it's the skills of the facilitator are going to be very, very important depending on the reaction to the question in order to keep things from going off the rails totally.
Right. And remember, as a facilitator, we are supposed to be neutral, right? So our job is to get all the differing opinions. That's okay. It's okay to have differing opinions. And it's okay. You've got a good point over here, and so does Sally over here. And just letting, keeping that safety in the room. The one thing that I noticed is you guys aren't afraid to stay away from hot topics. You went from religion to drinking to wearing underwear. So thank you for that. It's been very entertaining so far. And when you do get into controversial topics like that, that's when you really have to facilitate and bring out, keep the room calm, but also keep the room making good points. So, and the one thing was be careful of a diatribe and stating an opinion to start with. So be careful not to state an opinion to start with. We've always done it this way, so what if we change? So instead of saying it that way, saying it in a different way. We're thinking about making a change. What does everybody think without, for lack of a better word, leading the witness, right? Everybody got that? Maggie, you had your hand up. Is that from before?
No, it's actually another point I want to make.
Sure.
In a lot of these discussions, you will find that even the dissenters have some pretty cool ideas. And it helps to validate those, and you may come up with the ideal solution if you just listen to them.
Exactly. And you said the key point. As a facilitator, we do more listen. So thank you. Awesome. So that was awesome. Thanks, guys. Now we get to do this again on a different topic, which is this one helps with visioning. And when we do visioning, and when I've done a lot of visioning, there's several topics that we talk about. So I'm giving you choices. What I'd like you to do is draw out ideas from the participants, either on a community project ideas, what kind of community projects would you guys like to do this year? Pretend you're not part of that club. Or international projects or fundraisers for that club. So you get some choices this time. You pick one, and all you do is start getting ideas. Again, 1 minute. Who wants to go first? And you don't have to explain it. All you have to do is say your topic. What kind of ideas do you guys have for community projects? That's all you have to start with. And then just start asking for some great project ideas. We might come up with some great things tonight for this. So who wants to go first?
I will.
Awesome. Kristen, go ahead. Who wants to be after Kristen?
I will.
Who said I will? Sorry.
Sheila. I don't know why I can't get into my, there it is.
Okay, Sheila and Kristen, then Sheila. Perfect. Thank you. That will get us started.
I'm putting my hand up in my picture. I'm not using the hand. I'll go next.
Arthur will give you a pass and you can go third. So Kristen, go ahead.
Hey guys, we're here today to talk about international projects. So let's start by talking about narrowing down where we want to work. Does anybody have any connections or ideas on a particular country or location where they feel particularly passionate about working?
Okay, I'm really passionate about water projects, mostly Africa, because they're dealing with such dry conditions.
Water projects in Africa. Did someone else have something, Arthur? Was that you?
Yes, I think in Mexico, they're having a lot of difficulty with the schools that are just becoming really dilapidated. And I think we could be of some help if we went down as a group and tried to clean up the schools and refurbish them and give them labs where they need it that they don't have at the present moment.
Awesome. Anyone else?
I like the idea of a water project, but I think that we might be better to go to somewhere like Peru. Remember, we've had some contact with people with some of the villages in Peru, and that might be something to
Great.
continue what we've been doing before.
Thank you. I love
Awesome.
how you guys get into it. That's great. Okay, great job. Thanks, Kristen. Sheila is next, and then Arthur's on deck.
Okay, now it's time for a lively discussion about what sort of projects we really want to do. We've had a number of community projects that we've done for a number of years. How do people feel about carrying on with those projects, or would you like to see us develop some new projects?
Well, Sheila, if I might comment on that, if we were to withdraw from the major project that we're working on now, would it continue? Would we in fact find a big hole left in our community, or would they be able to sustain themselves? This is my concern.
Very good point, Lauren. Yes. Okay, let's consider that point. Anybody else?
I'm kind of bored with what we've been doing. I'd be interested in finding some new places we can.
Okay. Some people are having problems with boredom. Anybody else? How about you, Maddie? You look very thoughtful.
I was just thinking that
Time's up. I love you guys' ideas. I get to cut you off right in the middle. It's to give you a flavor of facilitating. So I have Arthur, and then Maddie had her hand up, and then I see Joe has his hand up.
Well, I'm really partial to a lot of our local projects. And some of the projects that we've had in our club are ones that have stretched out over several weeks or months. And I'm looking at and wondering if any of you have any ideas on a project that would take up a Saturday or a Sunday, shorter projects where people would not have to give up so much of their time all at one time, and could give us a Saturday or a Sunday. What are your ideas on that? What are your thoughts on my ideas of some short projects in town?
You know, Arthur, I love that. My sister's club in Pasadena does that very thing. They call it Done in a Day. It gets an impact into the community, and the time commitment's not huge. So you go with that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody else have a thought on that?
You know, Arthur, one of the things that is very evident with our community that I think we could have a visual impact on is a bit of a highways cleanup. And there are parts of the approaches to our community where we need to do a little bit of a better job. I think Rotary could step in and make a difference there.
That's excellent. In one of the previous clubs I belonged to, we did the same thing, and we had vests.
Okay,
and
we're good. We're good. Okay, on my list, I have Maddie, Joe, and then I see Maggie, or I saw Maggie's hand up. So am I right, Maddie? Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you want to know what fundraising projects you want. Bearing in mind that some of the usual things you've done because of COVID, we won't be able to do. What fundraising ideas do you have for this year? Anybody got any ideas?
Well, I'd like to suggest that we invite Linda Bauer to attend one of our meetings virtually and share the video that she and Bev recreated. And I believe that you will get quite a number of ideas from that.
That's an excellent idea. Yeah, excellent. Anybody else got any other ideas, specific projects though? Specific fundraising? Any thoughts on online fundraising? Maggie,
How about a virtual wine tasting?
That sounds interesting. Anybody else like
Is there
that?
a theme?
Does that work? Have you had experience with it?
Yeah, actually, I just did one yesterday. It went great.
Right.
There's sommeliers who will come on and do the wine tasting and stuff for you. So you can decide how you're going to do the financial buy-in part. But yeah, it works. It's awesome.
Sounds interesting. Yeah, and we're a club that
It's
likes
actually where the leftovers is where this wine is coming from. I didn't drink it all. There was so much.
Great. Thank you, Maddie. I have Joe and then Maggie next.
Unmute, Joe.
There we go. Unmute. We're a young club. We've got lots of kids involved. What are some things that we can do to impact this community of kids around us?
I have an idea. We could do a nighttime viewing of Saturn. Is Saturn out now? You would know, Joe.
Oh,
Saturn's
Do you know
out now.
someone who could lead? Do you know someone who could lead that for us?
I could find somebody real easy to do that. Yes, that would
Yeah,
be
Mark
fun.
Barnes.
Yes. Anybody else?
I'd like to suggest a longer term plan because it does take quite a bit of planning, and that's to have an Easter egg hunt this coming
Cool.
Easter.
Great idea. And if we could get a lot of families engaged in the planning part of it, I think we could have a great time with that. So thank you. Any others?
How about a kids park cleanup?
Okay, great idea. Yeah, that would help our environment. So absolutely. You guys are doing awesome with your ideas. Keep them coming.
Saved by the bell, Joe.
Thank you.
Maggie, and then who wants to be next after Maggie?
Okay, gang, we have had a check writing club for 100 years. We've got an awful lot of members with young families, and writing a big check just isn't practical. So let's take a look at what kind of fundraising ideas we could do where our families and younger members can get involved. Who's got some ideas? Don't all talk at once.
This is for fundraising?
For fundraising, yeah, we've got to raise money for our projects. And traditionally, our club has not gone out and done much of anything. So
Well,
what
when
are
I was
some of
in the schools with my kids, we had a spaghetti feed, and we
Love
parents
it.
got out there and did spaghetti and raised money that way.
I like that. Good idea.
Yeah, we used to have a pancake breakfast
Oh, yeah.
outdoors for $5 for pancakes, sausage, and coffee. And we raised $7,000 or $8,000 in about 3 or 4 hours.
Perfect. I love that. What else is out there?
I'm not sure how the food things work in the time of COVID.
Yeah, COVID's going to be done next week, so let's not worry about that.
I like your optimism.
One
Thank
can
you,
hope.
Maggie. I see Peter up, and who wants to go after Peter? Who hasn't gone? I've got Dwayne after Peter. Perfect. Peter, go ahead. Or yeah, Peter. Unmute. There you go.
Hi there. We're a small club, and we've kind of got international projects figured with our club, with our multi-club that we're in. We really need to focus on fundraising or some small community projects. We've been doing a number of these for a while, a flower sale, we got our 0.5K, and we need to expand our offerings, some things that are maybe new and exciting. What do we have for that?
No, Peter, the entrance to our town is not terribly inviting. How about some kind of a project done by Rotary that beautifies that entrance?
I love that. It could be a sign, maybe plant some flowers or plants. That's a really great idea. Does anybody have anything else?
On that entrance to the town, if we could find an inexpensive way to make an arch that actually says, welcome to the name of our town and presented by Rotary. And so they not only come into the town and see the name, but they see Rotary at the same time with its insignia at the bottom of the arch.
That's really brilliant. I like that. It could be so many different things, a sculpture, a sign, a painting. That's great.
Thanks, Peter. I have Dwayne, and then it's the last one, Lauren.
Oh, great. I'm not going to be the last one. That's fantastic. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. We are talking with you today to find out what we can do for fundraising. Before COVID hit our club, we had decided that we were going to cancel one of our fundraisers that we'd been doing for a number of years, but we never did come up with a replacement for that fundraiser. And let's face it, people, when we don't have a certain fundraiser bringing in money, we have to have another one that does. So I would really love to hear from all of you as to what ideas that you can come up with. And as you are saying those ideas, I will pretend to be writing them down. So please start with whoever.
A star party auction. Someone with a telescope would set up a star party, and the person with the highest bid would get that star party at their house, and they could invite who they wanted.
That sounds like a very interesting idea. That would, and here, just wait a second while I pretend to write it down. Thank you.
Another thing is, in my old town, we had a thing called junk teak. It was an auction, and you would bring all of your stuff that you no longer wanted from your home and bring it down there. And then we'd have an auctioneer who would auction off the various items, old sofas, typewriters, whatever it was. And then people would bid on it, and it would raise $20,000, $25,000. And then, of course, the next year, everybody would bring back the same junk, and somebody else would buy it.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, I have Lauren. Is that right? Did I get everybody else? Lauren, are you ready to go?
Well, I'm not sure that I am, but I'm going to give it a shot. Frankly, I've struggled with this. All the ideas I was thinking of have been presented, but let me give this a shot anyway.
Lauren, can I interrupt you for a second?
Please do.
I just want to tell everybody that you don't have to say anything to start with. All you have to do is ask a question. So does that help?
Thank you. Yes.
Awesome.
You know, our community is one that has a number of murals around, and these are very well enjoyed by our population and by visitors as well. Is there some way that we can turn those murals into a fundraiser that our club could benefit from?
I think if we took the murals that were best loved by people and made them into note cards, there might be a way of doing it.
Thank you,
like
Sheila.
that.
I think that's a delightful idea.
Yeah.
You could maybe create some sort of walking tour, like, and on every now and then, maybe on a Saturday, you'd have Rotarians would take people past all the murals, and you could charge them for it. Charge them a small amount to do it.
And could you, I'm sorry, could you get the painter to be part of that tour?
Brilliant idea. Thank you. And the community is small enough that for many of our Saturdays, that would make just a delightful pastime. Other ideas?
What kind
What
of...
if they...
Go, Joe.
Go ahead, Maggie. What if you had a passport where the families would go and get signed off at each of the paintings, and at the end get a prize, but to do this, they would have to contribute a little bit before they started the tour. But there'd be a little prize, maybe a postcard with those pictures on it, the families would get at the end of their tour.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, that makes sense.
Awesome. The time is up. Thanks, Lauren. You guys are doing great. Now, my fault for not telling you what's way easier when you're facilitating is when everybody's got their idea to put their hand up. And that way you don't have Maggie and Joe speaking at the same time. So I apologize for that. That's why we set it up that way, and I didn't set that up for you, and that's on me. So I apologize for that, guys. What did you find about this? How did it go? Did anybody find themselves teaching, lecturing, or were you asking questions? What did you learn? And you can put your hands up for this.
I think we're all experts now. I think we all did very well.
Of course you did. Of course. Dwayne.
I found out just listening to some of these different ideas coming from the different AGs that there's lots of new ideas that a person can implement into their own community.
Let's expand on that, Dwayne. So when you're facilitating, what happened?
You ask the question and you have the feedback, and people are being involved, and they're very welcome to get successful ideas maybe that they've had in their experience.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Dwayne. Maggie.
Well, I think whenever you're in a situation where you're across clubs or across districts, there are a zillion great ideas out there, and capturing those and validating those is important for everybody who's involved in the class.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Any other learnings from doing this other than it's amazing what you can come up with when you don't even think you will? Joe.
Well, I found out that I didn't, during my time, I didn't maybe probe as much as I should have. I noticed just a second ago, you asked for clarification to go dig deeper. And I realized, oh, I could have done that with what I was doing.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's the part of facilitating that you get as you learn. So you get as you practice and you get as you go. So often we get caught up in hearing the ideas that we start giving more ideas. Is that our job as a facilitator?
No.
Yeah, our job is not to add to it. We're supposed to be neutral. We're supposed to be getting the ideas from them, right? So be careful on giving more ideas because you just thought of 4 more that once they said something, right? Be careful of that and pulling it out. So I've got some great comments I know from Lauren and then Sheila.
The one I was going to mention is that the facilitator would have to be careful, both not to mention him or herself, but also to kind of stifle from amongst the crowd the negative comments that might come about if somebody didn't like an idea, because that might tend to stifle additional ideas being shared.
Yeah, great point. Thank you. Yeah. And not having an opinion, is that what you mean?
Well, or just to comment, if for instance, when I'm talking about the murals and somebody had said something that I thought, oh, that doesn't make sense. For me to just shut it down and say, well, you know, that's a non-starter. You know, don't do that.
Right. That's how to make people be quiet in the room, right? Not get more ideas, perhaps. Awesome. Any Sheila, you had an idea.
Well, I think it's really interesting listening to the richness of the ideas. And so I think that, yeah, we have to validate them. But the other part of it, I think anybody in the room can take advantage of it and use that as an additional resource for future action.
And how do you do that, Sheila?
Well, if you know, somebody's talked about having a virtual wine tasting, you can contact them and get some details and find out how it really worked. And I think that's the value of really sharing within facilitation.
Maggie.
I think I make people nuts when I facilitate meetings because I use a boatload of flip charts and put all of these ideas down as they come, good and bad. You know, if it's not one that I agree with, I'll do something like, well, that's really interesting. And then all of those things are plastered around the room so people can see what's been discussed.
Yeah. And you know, when we do visioning, that's what we do, right? We write all of these wonderful ideas. And one of the most powerful things that you can say as a facilitator, especially when you have somebody trying to explain something that's hard to understand, is how would you explain that in 10 words or less? Has anybody heard that before?
No.
I use that a lot in visioning and multi-year planning, which are the same thing, because we do have to write it down. And the poor person writing does not have 3 pages for one idea, right? So how would you word that in 10 words or less is your best friend. And also, a couple of things that I want to take note is when you're starting out, you don't need to set the stage, just ask a question. So when we're doing fundraising in multi-year planning, you want to say, who's got some great fundraising ideas? That's it. That's all. You don't need to set a stage in that scenario, right? When you're doing a presentation or a facilitation of a certain topic, you might want to, but in this setting, you don't need to set the stage. The world is your oyster. What kind of fundraising do you want to do? Do you want to go, you know, that's it, that's all. So you don't have to think about what it is you have to say. You're just asking a question. Remember that. And the other one is be careful. I think I said this already. Be careful not to add your own ideas and be careful not to add anything, especially when you're a guest in somebody else's club, helping them bring out fundraising ideas. So just wanted to put that in there so that you guys understand that. But great job, and I love how you're having fun with this. So thanks for playing along. And here's our next scenario. You guys ready? Yes? This is our next and last. Oh, thank you, Maggie. I appreciate that. Okay. So here it is, and this is a discussion, so please put up your hand about it. But here's a scenario that has happened to me. You arrive at a Rotary, this was a club meeting, and they say that it'd be great if you could lead the workshop that day or the meeting that day or whatever it is, and you say yes without a single prep. How would you go about facilitating this kind of meeting? This is where I love the silence.
I think I would ask what people would really like to talk about.
Great. Maggie, you had your hand up.
Well, I was a classroom teacher for a long time and an educator for longer than that, so it's kind of in my wheelhouse to do this at the drop of a hat. But I think just looking at the kinds of things we've already talked about, real quickly, look at your room, what have you got to use, and if they've given you a topic on a workshop, go for it. Otherwise, read the room and see what you need to talk about, kind of like what Sheila's looking at.
Yeah.
I think because humor is always a big part of me, I would start off a session like that with something I think was funny that would make the audience laugh. And the reason I do that is it releases all the tension, and then everybody is now loose and feeling comfortable, and then I can proceed with the topic of the day.
So how would you find out the topic of the day though, Arthur?
I would think that they would have given me that if I was to lead a workshop, that they would tell me what the workshop was about.
Okay, so here's the scenario. You arrived there, they didn't know you were coming, and they said, hey, it's so great to see you. We know that you're you're great at facilitating. Can you lead a workshop today? That's the scenario.
Okay, then
Yeah.
my topic would be, the easiest one, is I know that all of you have, who are in Rotary here, are used to doing whatever you do week in and week out. If you had an opportunity to speak up and say how you would add something, delete something, change it in some way, what would that be to you?
Okay, so Arthur, are you saying you would start with a question? Wasn't that a question?
Yes, and some yes,
Yes.
and I know. Well, you got me stuck because you said we should never ask questions.
No, I
And
said you should ask questions.
well, there was. I asked my question.
You did a great job. I asked you, how would you do that? And you said I would ask some questions about what would you want to change?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Sorry, I didn't mean to stump you at all, Arthur. You did a great job.
Oh
But
no,
when I asked you to reinforce it, you just thought I was just reinforcing what you were doing.
It didn't bother me. You're the teacher. It worked. Excuse me. You're the facilitator. It worked just fine.
Awesome. Maddie, you had a comment.
Well, I would probably want to sit down with the organizers of the event and find out what other things are going on, so that and ask them questions of what's going on and what gaps are there in what I might do if to decide on a topic.
So asking them pointed questions, what?
Like asking them what other sessions are going on, who's presenting, what topics, what gaps, what do you have in mind for the whole day?
Probing questions is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe.
Oops, there we go. One of the things that I first thought of was, again, being a teacher, we have what's called an anticipatory set. And so we'd go into this and just say, hey, give me a little bit of history, ask a question, give me a little bit of history about yourselves. And then that would lead into, okay, now what do you see for the future for yourselves? So a couple of questions there.
Awesome. Yeah. So do you see anybody else with any other ideas? Lauren.
Well, just interesting what you commented on regarding Arthur's presentation and what Joe just mentioned. Again, we're asking questions. We're trying to set the stage so that you can kind of read the room and know what direction you might want to go if nobody's given you a topic to begin with.
Exactly. Yeah. Great. Do you have to have all the answers?
No.
Do you need a presentation?
Nope, you just ask questions.
Right. Right. Bingo. Does anyone understand where this is going?
Oh yeah.
Tell me, Maggie.
We're going to have to play this scenario out in about 30 seconds.
Right. This one is a fun one. And because we're getting close to the time, I'm going to have to cut it off quickly. So who wants to be the first 3 to go? And we are going to practice this. I'm only going to give 1 minute though, not 2 like this says. Oops, I shut off my participants window. Maggie, you get to go.
Okay. It's great to see you all here, and we're going to spend about half an hour here going over pretty much whatever you would like to do. First thing I want to know is something about each of you. So let's go around the room, introduce ourselves, and tell me what your role in the club is and what kinds of things you think might be improved on. Who wants to start? Don't all talk at once. Okay, so who's got a good joke? It's been a minute, hasn't it? At least
You have 15 seconds left.
15 seconds. Okay, last
Time.
person.
Thank you all for coming.
Maggie, you've been a really good sport, and you've been trying to get, and, you know, asking questions, perhaps not, you know, when you get there and you're trying to get topics out, getting people to introduce themselves is something completely different that, you know, good swing on it. Who wants to go next? I see Peter's hand up, and then Lauren, and we'll go. Peter.
You're muted.
Hey, thank you for inviting me here to your meeting, or your get together. I see that we're here to talk about the future of your club. So you have a history club, you've done a lot of great things, and now we're here to talk about where you're going next. Does anybody have any ideas? You guys have a history of international giving in your budget. You do a lot of community work. You have some really great fundraisers. You are definitely an aging club and an older white male club, but you have the female component coming on, but you need to address some of your younger member issues, if you will. So let's talk about the future of your club. Where do you see this going? Any ideas? Where do you want your club to be in 5 years?
You know, Peter, we've done really well for 50 years with mostly guys in this club. Couldn't the younger people and women just set up their own club?
There are some terrific Rotary resources for that. You could be right.
Thanks, Peter. I've got Lauren and then Maddie, and then we'll wrap this section up.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to share in this workshop. What I want to know from each of you, first of all, is how long have you been part of your Rotary Club? And secondly, tell me what it is that bugs you about the Rotary Club that you're in. Now, I'm not just looking at this as a negative session. Tell me what bugs you and how you might choose to make it better or fix it or whatever might need to be done so that it didn't bug you. All right? So go ahead, please. Where would we start? Surely not every Rotary Club is perfect. I could share stories, but I'm not here to share my stories. I would like to draw that from you if that's possible.
Well, it bugs me that when so-and-so is asked to stand up and give a short answer to a question, she talks or he talks for about 10 minutes, which then cuts into the time for our program. How do we stop that?
That's a good question, Arthur. Do you have a suggestion as to how we might stop that?
Yeah, just throw them out of the club.
You could get your club president to facilitators training.
There you go.
Well, I think
one of the things that, oh, sorry.
I think it's the role of the chair.
We're good.
We're finished? Okay.
Yeah, we're finished. Thank you. And I had, who was next? Was it Lauren? That was Lauren.
That was me.
That was Lauren. So I've got Maddie, and then we'll wrap this up. Thank you.
So I've been given this session today just to find out a little bit about this district. Since I'm from out of the district, perhaps you could tell me what are the most interesting things about this district. Does anybody like to tell me that?
Well, we built a really big fountain for our centennial project in Spokane.
Uh-huh. And does it get a lot of visitors?
Well, it did until February.
I guess that's everybody. Yeah. So what else is interesting about this district?
Well, we're an international district. We're between Canada and the United States. That's a great thing.
Yeah, I heard about that. And what's that like? How does
Well,
that?
we get a
How
chance to exchange cultural ideas. We get a chance to travel and see some of the great scenery in Canada. And so there's just lots of advantages with especially the scenery, I guess.
Yeah, anybody else got any thoughts about that or anything else?
Well, I think this district is incredibly beautiful to drive through. It doesn't matter where you are in it. Every part of it has its own beauty. And in particular, when you're preparing materials for an international exchange or what have you, it's really important to highlight as many parts of the district as you can.
Yeah,
Thank you guys.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you guys for participating in that. That was awesome. It's easier in theory, and I want to know from you guys, how did it go? What did you learn from that? Was that easier or harder?
It's a little
Put your hand
tougher if you don't have a specific topic.
I think it's all easier here because we're getting more and more familiar with each other. It may not be as easy when you're before a strange group that you don't know.
Okay. Any other ideas about how you can make this easier? What is the key part of this?
Practice.
Yeah, just getting comfortable with it. When you go into a room, what is the most important thing to remember?
Make sure your fly is zipped up.
Oh, Arthur. Oh, Arthur.
Well, we need some humor. I'm here.
And that's exactly right. I think if you start out with humor, you grab your crowd right away.
I
Well,
agree. I agree.
Sometimes we have to be careful with humor. So
Yes.
what is it that helps engage people in the room? Is it humor or is it something else?
I think they're there to learn. Otherwise, they wouldn't bother to come.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Peter, you have your hand up.
That last exercise, that came home to me about a month ago, maybe less than a month ago. One of the local clubs asked me to come to one of their board meetings. Turns out they wanted me to lead their visioning process. And at first I was very fraught by that, but then I was really freed because I wasn't given an agenda so I could kind of jump in the way I wanted. However, I didn't have any preconceived notions, and I felt like if I messed up, I could say, yeah, but I wasn't prepared for this. So it was really freeing.
Pressure's off.
What was that?
I said pressure's off.
Yeah, truly it was. It was really great. And I don't know, I thought it was really good. And being as prepared with the information that our district gives us, forwards us, emails us, if we read all those things, if I am knowledgeable on a topic, I can BS for a long, long time.
Okay,
I
so
just need to be
Peter,
knowledgeable.
are you there when you're facilitating to present, or are you there to facilitate?
I'm there to facilitate, but I think having experience in facilitation makes it easier to lead them without how do I say that? To gather from them without leading them. That's a better way to put it.
Okay, so I want to dig deeper, so unmute yourself. And I'm not picking on you, honest.
I use my space bar.
Oh, you're good. You're good. So when you're facilitating for visioning, how do you get out of them the answers that you need?
Well, in this case, I know the club very well. My wife's a member of the club. I know all the club leadership, so I'm kind of in tune to the issues that they're discussing before I went in. And it's really asking the most forward-thinking, open questions I can ask.
Okay. Okay. So asking open-ended questions. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Any other learnings from that? And yeah, when we go into a place and you don't know anything, okay, so Peter, I guess you had an advantage that you knew the club, but sometimes that's not an advantage. It's a disadvantage because you know too much. I'm just teasing. But when you don't know anything, it's almost easier because you can just go in and ask questions and, you know, set an agenda that way. Any other comments? Sorry, I shut this. Okay, so one of the things I'm just going to quickly wrap up if I can. So we talked about this last week about arriving early, checking the technology, being professional, having a dress code if there is one, remembering the badges and the pins and making sure they're not distracting, and enjoying the process. And I appreciate you guys today because I'm hoping that, you know, you do like the humor. Part of being a great facilitator, we talked about setting the stage, establishing a safe environment. These are the really important basics. And one of the biggest basics under the skills of a good facilitator is being able to ask the questions and listen. Is that right? So here's what we've covered over the last 2 weeks, and I really appreciate you guys being here, is the difference between facilitating, lecturing, teaching, and speaking, and understanding, you know, if we're going to facilitate somebody's workshop and we don't have an agenda, asking a lot of questions to say, well, what would you guys like to cover today? I can cover, you know, anything from membership to whatever, and tell me what is a need here, and asking those questions, asking open-ended questions, making the room safe so that no idea is a bad idea, every idea is great, and we respect in the room. Covering how to draw information from everyone, and we also covered how to help everyone learn rather than having something to say. And I hope you enjoyed the practicing. And thank you for participating in that part today. So I want to leave the last few minutes on any questions or takeaways from today, comments, and I've got Maggie with her hand up.
Is there a way we can get copies of your slides? I can't write fast enough.
No, they're top secret.
Darn.
Actually, I took photos.
There you
go.
You
Well
can
done.
take snapshots.
I am kidding. Yes, I will send this PowerPoint that I have, although it doesn't have a lot of, oh, it does have some notes. I can send the PowerPoint to Debbie, no problem.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other questions? And honestly, I appreciate feedback. So, you know, today's was a practice, and the more you practice, the more this becomes second nature. So I encourage you, practice with each other, have fun with the process, you know, set up some of these scenarios for yourselves and enjoy learning how to facilitate, because it is fun. And most of you are really good facilitators to begin with. And keeping practicing, yeah, you know, I know there's some teachers in the room, and that teacher hat is a little different than the facilitator hat, but I can tell that, you know, you get it. So honestly, any other comments or questions? I've got Lauren.
Well, Cindy, I just want to say that you kind of put us on the spot a little bit at times, and it wasn't always 100% comfortable, but you did it in a very positive and uplifting way. I'm very grateful to have been here.
Oh, thank
Agreed.
you. I appreciate that. Yeah, sometimes it's hard when you're pretending, right? Thank you. Thank you for being a good sports about it. I appreciate it.
I have to say goodbye. I'll see you all soon. And again, Cindy, thank you so much. It was very worthwhile.
Awesome. Thank you, Arthur. On that note, if there's no other comments or takeaways from today, I know that we are getting really close to we are at 4:59. We actually are going to finish early.
Thank you, Cindy. We sure appreciate you and the time you took for us.
Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate it. And you guys have been awesome. I really appreciate everything that you got, all the participation and the good sportsmanship and the fun that we had along the way. I really enjoyed your questions. You guys made me laugh more than anything tonight. So thank you for that.